Good morning, and thank you for being here today, Thursday, February 12th, 2026, 10:30 a.m. in conference room 329 for the Committee on Human Services and Homelessness hearing. Aloha, amahalo, no ka hele anamai, ikeya halavai. All right, so first item on our agenda is HB 1877, relating to the Hawaii State Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer Plus Commission. It just adds some members. And first up to testify, we have on Zoom, Pride at Work. Please go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I'm here in my capacity as Vice Chair of the Hawaii State LGBT Plus Commission.
Okay, please go ahead in that capacity.
Okay, great, thank you. Good morning, Michael Galoy Jr., he, him pronouns. I am, like I said, Vice Chair of the Hawaii State LGBTQ Plus Commission, and we thank you for hearing this bill. The impetus behind this bill is that when we were first established, we had eight members, and you usually like an odd number when it comes to boards and commissions, and so we actually then looked at it, and there's been a large interest in the commission since our formation. As we stated in our testimony, part of that comes from the activities that we have been doing. And the other thing is that we're looking to making sure that we hit there's a huge diversity just in our acronym alone. And so we encourage you to pass this bill, give youth a voice on the commission, ensuring that youth have a seat reserved for them. Far too long do we not pay attention to those younger generations, and I believe that's a huge mistake we all do at the commission. And in closing, we hope that you will visit us on Tuesday for Queer Day at the Capitol. We will be there from 11 to 1 on the 4th floor, so you can see exactly the kind of things that has been sparking interest in our commission. Again, thank you for hearing the bill. We hope that you will pass it out.
Thank you very much. It's nice to hear that you have so much interest when other commissions have trouble making quorum. So that's fantastic. We also had written testimony in support from HOKUPAC and one individual in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this matter? Seeing none, members, are there any questions?
I do, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Piggybacking on what you mentioned about quorum, if I could ask the commission,
maybe ask Hawaii
Yes.
State. Yep.
yes. Are there any concerns about meeting quorum with these additional members should the bill pass? Because I've been on boards where it's been a challenge to meet quorum and therefore it gets stalled in terms of decision making.
We meet every month, unlike other commissions, and we only had one time in the last 18, 19 months of us meeting where we had an issue with quorum, and that was due to the fact we had to change the date at the last minute because of a scheduling hiccup with our normal meeting location. So we have not had any opportunity. We have not, and should this bill make it through, we will be working with the Speaker as well as the Senate President to making sure that they have their names ready to go once the bill signed into law. Because we are aware that the minute this is signed into law, that we do have to meet the quorum requirements for an 11-member board versus a 8-member board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your response. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next measure, which is HB 2006, relating to child well-being, which requires the Department of Human Services to do a program where they give cash to pregnant women and mothers of babies. First up, we have the Department of Human Services in person. Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, Catherine Scardino, here on behalf of Director Yamani. We stand on our written testimony and offer comments.
Okay, actually, if you wouldn't mind, I think that it is really important for those that may be viewing this hearing to learn about your written testimony, to learn what it is we already do with our TANF funds for the intended beneficiaries of this program, and what some of the requirements are of the TANF program? What kind of strings are attached to those funds?
Okay, yes. Thank you for the question and the opportunity to provide more information. The department administers a TANF financial assistance program. That's the monthly recurring financial benefits that we provide to eligible families with dependent children. The benefits, in order for a family to be eligible, there are certain criteria that must be met. For example, obviously residents of the state, furnishing social security number, meeting the citizenship or qualified immigrant status, as well as the income threshold. In addition to that, there are other program requirements, such as if there's an absent parent in the home for a child that's receiving benefits, then the family or the parent or caregiver must cooperate with Child Support Enforcement Agency. So if paternity was not established, that's one of the requirements. In addition to that, if child support is not established yet, then they need to also cooperate with that requirement. In addition to that, the state is required to administer a work program for TANF recipients. And so for families who are eligible, they're required to participate with our First to Work program. And so through the First to Work program, we provide case management services as well as work-related activities such as job search assistance, job readiness training. We support education, vocational training, and we also provide supportive services in order for the participants to successfully engage in the program, such as childcare subsidy, transportation assistance, work and education-related expenses. In addition to our TANF program and our TANF work program, we also provide supportive services, through many of which are contracted with community-based organizations. And so many of those services fall within the 4 TANF purposes. So Social Security Act, Section 401 does outline the 4 purposes. Purpose 1 is providing direct assistance to families so children may be cared for in their own homes or in the homes of their relatives. Purpose 2 basically promotes and encourages employment.
Yeah, I think the first one is one that applies, so maybe we'll skip the other ones. Okay. But anyways, thank you. And what about in terms of financial assistance that's given?
The financial assistance, based on the revised statute, it sets the minimum, the maximum benefit levels. So recently, we increased the benefit levels to the maximum, which is 62% of the 2006 federal poverty level.
So how much money is that?
That, I don't have the amount, but I believe a family of either 3 or 4 may be receiving about a little over $900 per month.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our next testifier, we have in person Hawaii Public Health Institute.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Chris Caulfield from the Hawaii Public Health Institute. We're in support of this measure. Poverty is a matter of public health. The first year of life is a uniquely challenging window for brain development and long-term well-being. Hawaii's child poverty rate has increased sharply in recent years. It's gone from 9% from the 2019 to 2021 range to up to 12% now. It's about 37,000 children. And so we see this as a pathway for addressing poverty. The proposal is modeled on Michigan's RX Kids program. That program had very tangible benefits for especially the Flint community. There was when it was evaluated, it was seen there was an 18% reduction in preterm births, a 27% reduction in low birth weight. There was a 29% reduction in neonatal intensive care unit admissions. It had huge tangible benefits, generated over $6 million in healthcare savings, while providing over $14 million in direct financial assistance to vulnerable families. We think this is something that could improve access to care services, help families meet basic needs that support healthy pregnancies and childhood development. It's a great intervention to intervene in poverty-driven health challenges. And so for those reasons, we hope that you will, despite some of the concerns that were outlined by the Department of Human Services, we hope that you'll move this measure forward. We expanded the child tax credit nationally during the pandemic. We saw a 50% reduction in child poverty in our nation. So we hope that you'll move this vehicle forward so we can continue to have this conversation about how we might construct this program and imagine new pathways for possibility in addressing child poverty in our state. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Hawaii Children Action Network Speaks on Zoom. Are they present?
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Nicole Wu from Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks. We also support this bill. We know that early childhood and perinatal pregnancy time are super important for the development of children. And we also have evidence from other countries. There's like 140 countries that have this. And as Chris said, the child tax credit here in the United States for 1 year when it was greatly expanded and it led to a historic decline in poverty. As many of you know, we have the largest amount of TANF reserve funds in the country when you look at what our annual block grant is. We have more than 4 times our annual block grant in reserves. So if there is a way to spend this money on this program, it seems like a very wise way to invest in the future of our children. Just to let you know, Tennessee used to have more TANF reserve funds as a % of their block grant. They've managed to whittle it down to about half of what it was, so now we have the most in the country. They funded a pilot program for 7 nonprofits serving low-income families. So there might be a little bit more flexibility, if we can think creatively. So I encourage you to move this bill along so we can continue this discussion session. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Next up, we have one individual on Zoom is Holly J.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of Committee on Human Services and Homelessness. My name is Holly Jimakanes. I am a mother, a community member, and a member of the Oahu Youth Action Board. I am here in strong support of House Bill 2006, which establishes the Hawaii RX Kids program to improve the economic stability of households with very young children through a one-time prenatal payment and ongoing monthly support. While I was pregnant with my 10-month-old baby, Honey, I experienced severe nausea and I could barely keep food down. For much of my pregnancy, I was only able to stomach crackers, poi, vegetables, and coconut water. At 4 months pregnant, I had fainted, and I was also in a transitional home, so I couldn't really afford a lot of money. At that time, I was denied from SNAP because of paperwork issues, and I was later rewarded with WIC. At 7 months pregnant, I had to extract a tooth, and only upon my appointment, I was required to buy a $50 medication that would help with the bleeding. And it was specifically for pregnant women because it would stop the bleeding without clogging up blood or blood clots, and that blood clot could possibly harm the baby. But I was in that moment where I couldn't afford the $50 medication. And luckily, I was able to get help from my parents. But not every mother has the support like I do. No expecting mother should have to worry about whether she can afford food or necessary medical care. Direct financial assistance beginning in pregnancy would help mothers meet their basic needs, reduce stress, and support healthier pregnancies. Continued support after birth would promote stability and better outcomes for children during their most formative years. House Bill 2006 is an investment in families, in child welfare, and in Hawaii future. I urge I respectfully urge you to support and pass this measure. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We also had comments from the State Procurement Office, support from Early Childhood Action Strategy and Indivisible Hawaii and Appleseed, Aloha United Way, Oahu Youth Action Board, and then about 26 individuals all in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions for our testifiers? No? Okay, then we'll.
Sorry, is the procurement office here?
They are not, they just submitted written testimony.
No worries.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have HB 2167 relating to youth homelessness, which requires the Office of Youth Services to do a pilot program to give homeless youth financial assistance. And first up for that measure, we have, is the Office of the Public Defender here in support?
Aloha, my name is Darcia Forrester. I'm with the Office of the Public Defender, and I'm here in my capacity as the supervisor of our juvenile division. I did submit written testimony, but I just want to supplement it. When we talk with our 16 and 17-year-old kids that we work with that are in foster care or who are living either in a homeless or semi-homeless situation with their families, the two biggest things that they worry about are, can I find a job and where am I going to live? And I have personally witnessed the stress that comes with worrying about where you're going to live. And getting a job is part and parcel with that because you have to be able to afford to live somewhere. It's usually someplace super cheap. It's not the greatest location because it's your starter apartment or a starter situation. So we are in full support of this pilot program. Anything that can help our youth exiting the foster care system or youth who are turning 18, who come from families that have very limited incomes or families that are living in homelessness would be very much appreciated. We've just seen how the smallest helps when it comes to financial assistance can really help a youth feel like that they can transition to an adulthood safely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. Is the Office of Youth Services here, please, in person with comments?
Aloha, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Leanne Gillespie. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Youth Services. I stand on my written testimony offering comments and requesting clarifications. We support the intent of this bill. I am available for any questions. If you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. I'm guessing there will be questions for you. On Zoom, we have in support Hawaiian Children's Action Network speak.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair. Oh, sorry. Members of the committee. Yes, we also support this bill. We know that young people, especially when they're leaving foster care, are especially vulnerable to homelessness. This seems like a great way to pilot some ways to prevent them from falling into houselessness and making sure that they have the stability that they need to have better futures. Please pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have on Zoom Efren Arones from Oahu Youth Action Board. No, not here in support.
Hi, Efren here, but I'm a treasurer of the Oahu Youth Action Board, and I will be submitting an individual testimony. But I wanted to say that we are still support of this bill.
Thank you very much. We have 3 individuals in support, and one of them would be you, Holly J. So go ahead with your personal testimony in support.
Right. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Holly J. and as I said before, my name is I'm a mother, a community member, and a member of the Oahu Youth Action Board. At the age of 22, I made the decision to come out of my parents' home and try to live independently. This, while being in a master's program, was very hard. I had to find a full-time job, and it was very hard for me to go throughout life without worrying about food to sustain myself. And luckily, I was able to receive help from nonprofits and from other resources that helped me transition to a transitional home, um, and find my plan to be stable and independent. The support played a vital role in helping me move forward towards self-sufficiency or self-sufficiency. This pilot program will provide similar support to youth who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Stable housing assistance during the critical stage of life can improve long-term outcomes. Funding would also strengthen the capacity of nonprofit organizations and local agencies to provide coordinated services. Without support, vulnerable youth face higher risk of unemployment, poor health, and involvement with the justice system. Outcomes that result in greater long-term costs to the state. Investing in housing stability can reduce reliance on emergency services and strengthen our communities. For this reason, I respectfully urge you to support and pass House Bill 2167. The pilot program is a practical investment in Hawaii's youth and in our state's future. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. We also have in support on Zoom Judith Clark. Is she there?
Aloha Chair, members of the committee. I'm Judith Clark, a community advocate, a youth homelessness service provider for 25 years, and a person with lived experience of young adult homelessness. I strongly support House Bill 2167. When I was 20, I was laid off from work and could not pay the rent on my apartment. It was a miserable and terrifying time. I was hungry and cold. I was afraid of being assaulted or raped. When an elderly friend allowed me to sleep on the floor of his senior living apartment, I knew that he was not allowed to have overnight visitors and that my presence was jeopardizing his housing. I was one of the fortunate ones. Within 2 months, I found another job and ended my homelessness experience. Rent for the support for those 2 months would have made a huge difference in my life. In Hawaii, the gap between what young adults can afford and the actual cost of housing is huge. One unexpected medical bill or car repair bill can be the tipping point into long-term homelessness. A small amount of assistance now can prevent years of dependence on public assistance and long-term homelessness. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. We also have Coda Daly, not present, in support. And then we had written testimonies in support from CARES, from the comments from the State Procurement Office, comments from Statewide Office on Homelessness and Housing Solutions, support from High Hopes, Opportunity for Youth Action Hawaii, Hawaii Youth Services Network, Point Source Youth, and then a handful of individuals. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions?
Chair, I have a question, excuse me, for OIS. Hi, thank you for your testimony. In another hearing, we addressed or we discussed the issue of homelessness. And so I'm curious to know whether or not OIS currently coordinates or partners with any of the programs from the City and County of Honolulu to address the issue of homelessness involving young adults. So let me rephrase that question. So actually any of the counties, so are there any of the counties that OIS is working with to address this statewide issue involving young adults and homelessness?
We work directly with a lot of the community agencies and nonprofit agencies to look at homelessness and how we can assist youth. But all of our contracts have to go through procurement.
Okay, is there any partnership with the core program that is with the city and county of Honolulu?
Not currently.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Chair.
Go ahead.
Question, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Oh, I asked if you could stay up.
Sure.
So thank you for your testimony. It's very good to hear feedback from the agency who would be impacted probably the most from this. If we were to adopt language to define the RFP process for this, there were some questions about clarity. What kind of language would you like to see in this bill for it, with it moving forward, that you would like to see it when it reaches the finish line? If we put the RFP process, and if I was to say that our goal would be to service potentially for the pilot 30 to maybe 100 youths per year for the 2 years. Based off that information, how many like full-time positions would you think you might need? That kind of language, so that way we can perhaps incorporate it to help address some of those concerns. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, for your question. So I think we need some clarification on some of the other issues before I can provide that. It is the intent for us to disperse these cash financial assistance? Is the intent for us to contract with community-based agencies to do that? I mean, those operational pieces have a lot of direct impact in kind of what the costs would be and kind of what the staffing would need to be.
So out of those two pathways, which way do you think would be the most conducive?
Well, I mean, I think given this particular project, we put in our testimony that kind of our recommendation, we think the best placement for this project is through the grant and aid program. That would come under Chapter 92F. I don't know if there's another way regarding procurement. And procurement does take up to a year, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, right? So the ability to serve, 30 or 100 comes into play for that piece.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thanks. I
Sure.
think my colleagues and I are kind of headed down the same path. We're trying to figure out, one, how to fund the program, but have a target or measure that this pilot program is actually working, so we can look at the funding allocations, like the return on investment. And so to my colleague's question, is that done in the contract, or is that being done through the procurement process? Because I'm okay with procurement, but to your point, it can take a long time. And we're looking to accelerate the spend down on the funds so that we can start touching the nonprofits who are actually servicing these youths. I think that's what we're trying to understand. How do we word it in a manner that we get the metrics that we're accomplishing the goal of this program?
So I'm not sure I have the answer for you on that. Might have to get back to you on the procurement piece. But we would put the performance, if we were contracting with community-based agencies, we would put the performance metrics into the RFP process, saying this is what you have to do, this is how you have to accomplish, right, the goals of the project. And this is the information that you have to provide to us, right, as the accountable agency for that.
Absolutely.
And that would be in the written contract.
In the written, and I
Yes.
think that's the other piece. We wanna word this bill in a way that gives the deliverables to help you write the contract to prove the efficacy of the program.
And that would greatly help us, yes.
Okay.
I apologize. You can tell she's done this before.
Okay, I
Because
think-
right now we don't know.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
We generally, we we come from a standpoint from, we look at the whole individual and trying to break the cycle of homelessness. So when we provide homeless assistance, not in cash like this, we have not done that before. We look at the services to wrap that person in to prevent future, accounts and situations,
Yeah, and
so.
I mean, I'm not sure how my colleagues view this, but I understand through testimony, it's a hand up, not a handout. We want to get them bridged from one situation that created the homelessness to the next one so that they can be self-sufficient.
Exactly.
And so I'm looking for the right language that, these payments may sunset after 6 months where we can wrap you into other services, but we need your help, right, kind of guiding that.
And I would have to reach out to other agencies that have done financial assistance. We've never done financial assistance. It's just not my expertise to be able to comment on how to do that.
Great. No, thank you for the feedback, and it's all like baby steps, right? You end up in a situation, like so many of our testifiers, a bad car bill, a dentist bill, and before you know it, you can't afford to eat, let alone you can't afford your rent. And we're just trying to close that gap. Thank you, Chair,
Appreciate
for
it.
letting me.
So last thing, clearly this committee feels like the intent of this bill is really useful and we'd all like to see it move forward. I feel like the details are not thought out yet. And so I would really love for you to work with Vice Chair, whose bill this is, and we'll delay decision making to give him time to talk to you and work through the details, because as someone who actually is working in this area, you are actually best positioned to help us figure out the best way to go about it. So we'll let that happen offline.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very
Chair,
much.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. One more
Thank you
question.
for OIS.
Yes.
Can you please go over the current services that your organization does provide for the vulnerable youth? And the bill describes them as those experiencing homelessness, transitioning out of foster care, fleeing domestic or family violence, or leaving unsafe home environments. In those categories, what specific agencies, nonprofits do you currently partner with to provide services?
So we provide a continuum of care for residential services. Our focus is youth to prevent them from moving into the juvenile justice system or moving further through the juvenile justice system. And so we serve at-risk youth and young adults. We have contracts for emergency shelter services. We have the Safe Spaces shelter program. We have transitional residential we have both intensive residential treatment, kind of step down from the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility. We also have some other residential programs.
Are you folks at capacity, or there's a long wait list of people trying to get services, or what's the average number of youth you serve in this category?
I don't have those numbers. I can get those numbers maybe for last year.
Okay,
If
please
you
do,
could
thank
send
you.
those to the committee, then I'll share them with everybody.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate your testimony. We also have, okay, that was it, and seeing no more questions, we will move on to our next measure, which is relating to Medicaid, HB 2224, which basically gives Medicaid more flexibility around pharmaceutical benefits management. And first up, we have the State Health Planning and Development Agency. Can I see Jack?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and honorable members. Pharmacy benefit manager, Jack Lewin, Administrator of SHPTA. Pharmacy benefit managers are very, very complicated entities created by insurance companies, intermediaries for prescribing and so forth. In some places and cases, they probably save some money. In other places, they have been a source of concern. I think it would be, and interestingly enough, since I've talked to leaders at DHS twice today, but I didn't coordinate my testimony with them, so I apologize. But it doesn't make any sense to hold the agency somehow prohibited from negotiating with them, because without, PBMs oftentimes prohibit access to local pharmacies in small places. So I think giving this authority to DHS and to Medicaid is entirely responsible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up we have Department of Human Services. Is that on Zoom?
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I'm Meredith Nichols, representing Department of Human Services, and we stand on our testimony and appreciate the testimony of Dr. Lewin just ahead of us. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. We also have the Hawaii Pharmacists Association on Zoom in support.
Good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Olds, and members of the committee. Corey Sanders, Executive Director of the Hawaii Pharmacists Association. I'll stand on our written testimony with just one additional comment, that this initiative is not intended to make any changes at this point in time to the oversight abilities of DHS, but we've been tracking a lot of national trends and cost savings that are associated with DHS having more oversight over our pharmacy benefit managers. So we want to ensure that there's no statutory barriers or restrictions if and when the time comes for them to take more control. I will stand by for any questions that you all may have, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. We also had in support one individual with written testimony. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. For Dr. Lewin, please. I'm just curious, this repeals the provision from Act 4 passing 2005. Do you recall the reason why that was passed and the reason for doing so back then?
I wasn't here at that time, but my assumption is that the industry itself wanted to have the ability to preclude the agency from taking this kind of action.
And in what ways, if the bill is not passed, in what ways are your hands currently tied because of this?
Well, there are just restrictions that come into what PBMs do. I mean, they sometimes own pharmacies, like CVS is currently owned by a health insurer and an entity like that at the top. So they direct their prescriptions to those places, or they limit formularies. And I think our MedQuest agency is doing a very responsible job of trying to keep the cost of pharmaceuticals as low as possible for beneficiaries. But we don't really want any restrictions on them from doing that in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next measure. HB 1626, relating to youth penalties. This prohibits the assessment of any fees, fines, or court costs against a person during their minority, so youth, or against their family, guardian, and it also encourages the use of community service and other programs employing INA-based principles. It repeals penalties imposed on parents, guardians, and others associated with unaccompanied children in streets and unmarried minors in dance halls, if we still have dance halls. So we have heard this bill the last 2 years and have always passed it out and made a lot of amendments. It's about a 100-page bill. So when you make an amendment on one part, sometimes it ripples through the whole document. And I'm hoping that this is the last time we have this bill. So our first testifier is Department of Education with comments. Do we have the DOE on Zoom? Nope. Okay, they are not here. We have the Office of the Public Defender in support.
Aloha again. All right, so we strongly support this bill. As Chair Martin mentioned, it's been kicked around for a couple of years. I think this is the best version of the bill and the cleanest version that we have. There's no cap on community service, which was a problem last year. I do want to make it clear this does not have anything to do with restitution. Restitution is a different issue. It's purely about court fines and fees, and it embraces more of a restorative model. It embraces community service, and we are very supportive of including the new inclusion of INA-based community service and expanding that as an option. Most of our kids that we work with at the Public Defender's Office, they don't have any money. We're talking about families that are scraping by most of the time. And it has always bothered us, to be perfectly frank, that when you have a family that can afford to hire an attorney, then your family pays all your fines and fees. And then our kids who are living in poverty or homelessness or in the public housing, their families can't pay their fines and fees, and they end up with this debt that just dogs them. And we've always felt that that was fundamentally unfair from just an equity perspective. So we really strongly support the bill. Thank you so much.
We also have ACLU of Hawaii. Are they here? In support. On Zoom, Ekolu Mea Nui. Please go ahead, in support.
Yes, aloha, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Old, and members. My name is Dr. Jamie Mahialani Miller, and I'm the Co-Executive Director of Ekolu Mea Nui. And I stand on my written testimony, but I just want to point out a few things. The first thing is the INA-based education piece that was mentioned from the previous speaker. It came from last year's from our OPO that did the House Concurrent Resolution number 174. So they're busy right now. During after school hours, they're calling all different programming across the island, across the state, excuse me, and asking them if they would be a place that would welcome youth that are need community service hours. So they're putting together a list, and we'll be submitting the list. And that's one of the projects that they have to update the list, continuously update the list. The other thing that I wanted to point out was also that if this measure does not get adopted this year, and we really hope that it does, that what will end up happening and what continues to happen is that this becomes a legacy. Juvenile debt remains legally enforceable. So that means license holds block employment, collection referrals, damage credits, barriers to housing and military enlistment, and unresolved court obligations follow young people well into the adulthood. And that's what we do not want. We don't want a mistake at 15 blocking opportunity at 25. So we are in strong support of this bill, and thank you folks for the opportunity and allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much. If you wouldn't mind reaching out to my office, I would love to put my nonprofit on that list.
Okay, thank you.
We also have the Office of Hawaiian Affairs on Zoom.
Aloha Kakahiaka, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. McKenna Woodward on behalf of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Ikalamai, I'm not unable to be there in person today, but we are in strong support of this measure. It is critical for our keiki and for the lahui, and want to mahalo Ekolu Mea Nui for working tirelessly on this bill the last 3 years, as you mentioned. Just want to highlight, a bit from our testimony. If the state is truly sincere about moving toward a restorative, rehabilitative model of corrections, this is a really great way to move the needle. As mentioned previously, youth penalties really only serve to unfairly punish ohana who cannot afford to pay their way out of accountability, and that's really evidenced by the fact that only 17% of youth fees and fines are paid. So replacing this outdated practice, as many other states have already done, with INA-based community service allows youth to meaningfully participate in programs that strengthen connection to culture, place, and to the lahui. So mahalo nui loa for the opportunity to provide testimony on this critical measure, and I will stay on for questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have an individual in support, Carrie-Ann Shirota. Is she on Zoom? Not present. Okay. We have written support from the judiciary, from Debt Free Justice Hawaii, Opportunity for Youth Action Hawaii, now POYY, Oahu Youth Action Board, Libertarian Party, Adult Friends of Youth, and a handful of individuals. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure?
Good morning, Chair
Did I
Martins,
skip
Vice
you?
Chair. I'm Andrew Park. I'm from the judiciary.
Oh, okay, I'm
we
sorry.
submitted ours as
It
written
didn't say that
testimony.
you were gonna be here in person, but I am very appreciative that you are. Thank you.
Thank you. It was submitted as written testimony. I apologize, and good morning, honorable members of the committee. I wanted to let the committee know that I was here because I anticipate there might be questions for the judiciary about this bill. As the chair indicated, there have been prior iterations of this bill which have passed out of this committee. As the committee is probably aware, the judiciary's position had previously been essentially no position, but offering testimony indicating that this was in fact evidence-based and consistent with the practices of the Hawaii family courts. As Deputy Public Defender Forrester indicated, the bill's been worked up. I remember back when Rep. Mizuno was chairing this committee, there was a lot of work done to this bill to include suggestions and requests that the judiciary has made, in particular with regards to payment for services utilizing insurance. We're appreciative of all the prior work, and this bill, our ability to support this now is really based on the off-season collaboration that we've been able to have with the introducers or the drafters of this bill. I did want to highlight that as Deputy Public Defender Forrester indicated, it doesn't impact restitution. Restitution is a terrific tool that courts still have available to them, which is rehabilitative in nature, helps youth understand that when their actions cause money damage or other damage to individuals or organizations, that they can be held responsible for helping to fix that damage that they've caused. As a family court judge on the juvenile docket for over 3 years, exclusively doing juvenile cases, I can't remember an instance where I had a youth appear before me and think to myself, gee, I wish I could make this kid pay a $50 fine, and they'd really learn their lesson. The rest of the gamut of rehabilitative measures is available to us and will remain available to us if this bill is passed, including community service, deployment of appropriate services, probation, incarceration, and youth prison. This simply removes the assessment of fines and fees. I'll be available for any questions, and I appreciate this committee's consideration.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here in person and available for questions. Okay, members, are there any questions? Oh, did I ask if anybody else wishes to testify on this measure? Even if you weren't signed up, you can come up to the podium and testify. I'm sorry?
Aloha, Chair.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Aloha, my name is Efren Barones. I'm actually the chair of the Oahu Youth Action Board, and we do stand on a written testimony. This is more of just a mahalo from me and our young people. This session, we did an advocacy training and trained our houseless young folks on how to engage with the legislature. And so if you probably saw a few of our young people and names testifying today, and I got a few texts saying that they were excited that they testified. So just a mahalo from us for welcoming our young people and engaging our houseless young folks in the process. So mahalo.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here in person that would like to stand up and testify? You're welcome to do so, you're here. Okay.
No pressure.
Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. For Judge, I think it's the third time we've had this discussion on this topic. Your testimony says, as Hawaii family courts rarely impose fines, fees, or court costs against minors or their parents, this bill would not present a significant change in the current court operations. So if it wouldn't change that much, what would change, and do you still feel the need for the passage of this bill?
Thank you, Rep. Garcia. The family courts don't, wherever possible, impose costs or fees on youth. One of the things I believe we're asking for is a delayed implementation because our district courts are not necessarily the same as family courts. Family courts, we use this legacy system where everything's kind of still on paper. Our district courts have transitioned to electronic filing with the Judiciary Information Management System and Judiciary Electronic Filing and Service. And there are certain fees that are not necessarily waivable, for example, like a $7 driver's education fee that kind of gets attached to every case that are traffic court cases.
Would those fees be for like traffic offenses, right?
Those fees would be for traffic offenses, including traffic crimes. And if the district court would exercise their concurrent jurisdiction over a traffic crime, like say a driving without license or things of that sort, then that case might go to district court instead of the family court, and then we'd have to maybe reprogram the systems to not automatically assess that $7 fee. I don't sit in district court, I practiced there for a while as an attorney, but that would be the kind of impact on that. And with regards to what's the need for this, you know, as I think this body is aware, things change from time to time, and I might not get reappointed this year, right? And someone else might come in and have a different non-evidence-based view on things, and they may begin imposing fines and fees and court costs on youth and families who are unable to pay. And I think that where we've identified a best practice, we've consistently been applying a best practice. It would make sense to align the statutes with that best practice.
Just a quick follow-up, Chair. So that's the case for family court. So in most family court instances, minors won't be assessed fees currently. If they're in different courts, traffic court, district court, that could possibly happen, like the example you gave, correct?
Correct.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Chair, may I please follow up? One more, please, Your Honor. Thank you for being here. Quick question. Is it different across county? Do some counties tend to impose fines and fees, whereas others are more lenient and don't? Have you seen a striation in the system in that way?
Among the family courts, no. The family court judges meet monthly. We have a 3-day symposium for family court judges across the state once a year. And we all receive the same training, we study the same materials, and we apply the same best practices. Across the district courts, I can't speak for every district court. I do remember practicing, and things were slightly different among the different circuits. But as a whole, I think the kind of assumption is that a minor earns no income because of their status as a minor, in the same way that they can't enter into valid contracts because of a minority. So typically speaking, it's been my experience that when monetary assessments or fines were imposed, they would frequently be converted to community service anyway, to allow the youth themselves who has been engaged in, social conduct or whatever the case may be, to ensure that that youth themselves is engaged in the rehabilitative measure rather than potentially having the family member kind of bail them out by paying the fee for them.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other questions?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge, for being here. The judiciary's testimony states that they request an effective date of July 1st of 2027. My question is, given that we're here in February, would a effective date of January 1st be unrealistic?
I'm trying to say this in a way that I'm not going to get in trouble. Having experienced the various gyms changeovers, most recently in the family court, we were the last court to move over to the electronic filing system, and it was still difficult. Even though it had occurred, the changeover had occurred, in the circuit civil, the circuit criminal, the district criminal, district civil, before we transitioned. Frankly, there are still some bugs here and there. I think to ensure the best possible implementation of this measure, we assessed it, and July was what we assessed it as, to taking into consideration the testing, the potential code changes. That's our request. Whatever this committee does is whatever this committee does, and we understand that. We're going to work with it.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Judge.
Rep Garcia, did you have another question?
I'm good, thank you though.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to our
Thank you, everyone.
second to last measure, which is somewhat related. This is HB 1690, which expands the statewide curfew, which the previous measure gets rid of completely, to minors under 18 years of age instead of 16. And we have testimony in opposition from the Office of the Public Defender.
Again, so respectfully, we strongly oppose this measure. So I did submit written testimony, but I've had some time to think of some examples, because I would like the committee to understand some of the problems. this measure would make it illegal for a youth to go with their friends, a youth who had a valid driver's license, to get in a car and go to the movies. If that movie started at 8 and finished at 10, if they leave that movie and there's no adult with them, but they're responsible, and they stop at 7-Eleven because they've stopped or deviated, they have committed a crime. Or if they decide to go to McDonald's, they have stopped and or deviated. There's no adult with them, but they're responsible, they have committed a crime. We're very concerned that this bill just simply goes too far. I'm not sure what the justification of it is, because there was no preamble. But most of our youth are responsible. We asked the committee to not create a helicopter parenting situation where you can never be without your parents. If you are going to school, you're doing great, you might have a job, you're thinking about college, you don't need to have your parent with you all the time after 10 p.m. You might be responsible enough to go to the movies with your best friend and get home at 10:30 or even 11. There are plenty of youth who legitimately want to go hang out with their friends. That shouldn't be a crime just because you're coming home solo without a parent or an adult. We're also concerned that making it mandatory you have an adult with you might have this negative impact of youth relying on older youth who are 18 to be their escort. We just don't think that that's a safe option all the time. So we just think there are too many issues with the bill, and we're asking this committee to not pass it forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the judiciary in opposition.
Good morning again, Vice Chair, honorable members of the committee. I'm not Scott Boo, and I apologize for not being Scott Boo.
You can just be who you are.
We will stand on our written testimony in respectful opposition of this bill. As this committee has likely read, our primary concerns involve the potential for running afoul of various federal requirements, which may lead to the loss of funding. I'll be available for any questions if you folks have any.
Thank you very much. On Zoom, do we have the Office of Foreign Affairs with comments?
Aloha Kakehiaka, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. McKenna Woodward on behalf of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs offering comments on this measure. Again, Ikalamai, I'm unable to be there in person today, but we did just want to mahalo the introducer, Rep. Keela, for taking the time to meet with us regarding this bill to go over some of our concerns. We understand the intent of the measure is in response to some late night public safety and community concerns that have recently occurred on the west side of Oahu, but we expressed similar concerns to the previous testifiers that this bill as written would unnecessarily create another pipeline into the juvenile justice system. Our research and policy experience at OHA indicate formal court involvement for low-level youth offenses can increase rather than decrease the likelihood of continued justice system contact. So to that end, we were encouraged to hear from our conversations with the introducer that there may be some openness to removing the provision that would raise the curfew age to 18 and subsequently result in some of the issues that the previous testifiers mentioned, and possibly restructuring the penalty structure to more closely align with the previous measure that was heard at HB 1626 to replace youth fees and fines, or in this case, possibly incarceration, with INA-based community service. We feel this could, address the root of the issue a little bit more closely as far as those public safety concerns with certain youth being out late at night. So we appreciate the discussion on this measure and mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. Next we had HPD, Honolulu Police Department, with comments in writing and one individual with written opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please come up.
I felt no. It
Yeah.
wasn't on my radar. So my apologies. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Leanne Gillespie, Executive Director for the Office of Youth Services. We oppose this bill. The state of Hawaii has spent decades on juvenile justice reform. We've spent millions of dollars over the decades to divert youth from the juvenile justice system. Increasing criminality and the penalties to youth does not align with our philosophy and the way we've been managing the juvenile justice system over the several decades. We've been quite successful in juvenile justice reform. Our population at the Hawaii Youth Correctional Facility has decreased by 98%. We have been on the right track, and I respectfully request that we keep on that track to reform. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions?
I have a few questions, Chair. For Judiciary? Hi, thanks again, Judge, for being here to testify. Two simple questions. I hope they're simple questions. The first question is, how many referrals, if you're aware, does the court currently receive for curfew violations?
Curfew, that is a relatively simple question. I can't give you exact numbers, but I can tell you that for a first status offense, such as for curfew, the goal, as was referenced by Director Gillespie, is to divert that youth from formal court proceedings, and the judiciary has a formal diversion unit where judiciary probation officers can work with the youth, rapid deployment of measures, and keep that youth out of the court system. There's also community partners who are contracted with OIS, such as Adult Friends for Youth on the west side, who divert youth from the courts. So in terms of how many curfew violations we see, typically on a week where I would have, say, 10 new arraignment and plea cases, I might only have 1 or 0 curfew violations, which is not necessarily that's not universal, right? But there were not a whole ton of curfew violations. However, there are those handful of youth who have repeated curfew violations, right? And those youth would get processed, non-divertible because of the number of violations, and I would see those youth in court.
Okay. And the second question I wanted some clarification, just so the committee is aware. A status offense is different from a law violation. And if this bill were to pass, it would change curfew from a status offense to a law violation. If that is correct, what is the significance of that change?
So I think you're right, Representative Hartsfield, that the penalty for curfew violation would be a law violation penalty. But a curfew violation could not itself be a law violation, because a law violation is defined as an offense which, if committed by an adult, would constitute a crime. And an adult necessarily cannot criminalize for being out past a certain time. And so we would be in kind of a interesting situation where we would have a penalty that is not a status offense penalty, attributable to a status offense, which would then, I can't comment on what the feds would do or what they wouldn't do, right? But our concern is that it would trigger potential financial repercussions and loss of benefits, because it would not align with the Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention Act of 1974 as reenacted in 2015.
Okay. Are there any further questions?
Thank you. I have a question for the PD's office, really quick.
Okay, we are running up against time, and I think you know what the fate of this bill will be already. So I encourage you to keep it quick.
Okay, yes. Just a quick question. Does the Public Defender's Office currently represent minors who come in with curfew violations?
Yes, we represent law violators and status offenders. Our position is that if you can lose your freedom, then we will represent you. And for status offenders, because one of the possible penalties, you can be removed from your home and placed in a shelter. including the judiciary shelter called Home Maluhia, you can lose your freedom, so we will represent status offenders and law violators.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. No further questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to our last measure, which is HB 2012 HD1. So this was already heard in education, relating to community literacy labs. And for this one, it's a pilot program for 2 years. And we have the Department of Education not here with comments. And then we had one written testimony in support from the Hawaii State Public Library System. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none, there is no one to ask questions of, so we will proceed directly to decision making. And first up, we have HB 1877, which was relating to the adding members to the state LGBTQ plus commission. And for this one, Chair recommends technical amendments and affecting the date. Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1877, our Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Amato.
Aye.
Representative Hartsfield.
Aye.
Representative Keakapu Leloy.
Aye.
Representative Takayama excused. Representative Takenouchi.
Seeing
Seeing the presence of Representative Takayama, we are voting on HB 1877. How would you like to vote?
It's adding members to the LG.
Aye. Sorry. Representative Alcos.
No vote.
Representative Garcia.
Yeah, come on.
Excused. Chair recommendation is.
Are you sure it's an aye?
Are you sure it's
You should
aye?
check what we're voting on.
No. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I do not want you to vote
Thank you,
against your
Chair.
conscience.
That was a picture waiting to
The Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Okay, next up, we have HB 2006, which was the one that proposed universal, regardless of income level, financial subsidies to pregnant women and mothers of babies. And this one, while I do agree that supporting young families get their start is super important, there was a lot of problems with the funding source. You can't use TANF funds for people of high income. And if you give money to people with lower incomes, then you jeopardize their eligibility for a whole slew of programs that already exist and are quite generous and are not pilots or one time, but are ongoing programs. So I think that this needs more work, and for that reason, I'm going to defer it. Next up, we have HB 21767 relating to homeless youth. And for this one, as you could see in our hearing, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of enthusiasm for this. So I'd like to delay decision-making till next Tuesday to give the primary introducer, our vice chair, time to work through some of the details with the department. Next up, we have HB 2224 relating to Medicaid. For this one, I would just recommend, this gives the department the ability to negotiate with pharmaceutical benefits management. And I would just like to defect the date. And Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 2224, Chair's recommendation is passed with amendments. Noting the excused absence of Representative Takenouchi. Any members voting no? Any with reservations? Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Next up, we have HB 1626 relating to youth penalties. For this one, I would recommend just adopting the DOE amendments that clarify that wherever it says principal, it's principal or designee, so it doesn't have to be the principal itself, himself or herself. And also to defect the date, but put in the committee report that the effective date should be July 1, 2027 to allow courts to make necessary operational changes. Vice Chair for the vote, please. Oh, I'm so sorry. Any comments or questions from my members? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1626, Chair's recommendations to pass with amendments, noting the excused absence of Representative Takenouchi. Any members voting no?
No vote.
No vote.
Any with reservations? Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have HB 1690 relating to minors. This was going to be to impose a universal curfew on minors under the age of 18. And I am going to defer this measure based on our testimony heard today. Next up, we have HB 2012 HD1 relating to community literacy labs. And the chair recommends to pass it as is, but to include in the committee report that we need to get a cost recommendation for finance committee. It's missing that, and there were, in no previous versions did it have any mention of an actual budget. Vice Chair Famo? Oh, any questions or comments? Please remind me next time. I apologize for not remembering that for some of our previous measures. Seeing none, Vice Chair Famo.
Voting on HB 2012 HD1, Chair's recommendation is to pass unamended. Noting the excused absence of Representative Takenouchi. Any members voting no? Reservations? Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you very much, Mayor Chair.